Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really powerful idea that basically sees all of social life as one big performance. You know, from a job interview to a first date, we're all kind of actors on a stage, carefully trying to manage how other people see us.
I mean, think about it for a second. Do you act the exact same way with your boss as you do with your best friend? Or how about on a first date versus when you're just chilling at home alone? If you've ever felt yourself kind of adjusting your personality to fit the situation, well, you're already tapping into a huge sociological concept.
And it turns out you are definitely not alone in feeling this way. Back in 1959, a sociologist named Erving Goffman came along and introduced this amazing theory to explain exactly that feeling in his book, The Presentation of Self in Everyday Life.
So Goffman called this whole idea dramaturgical analysis. And the name itself gives you the big clue, the central metaphor here, drama. He literally saw our social lives as a form of theater.
So what does that actually mean? Essentially, Goffman proposed that we should look at all our social interactions like they're a kind of play, where all the actors, our lives are the stage, and we're constantly performing for an audience, and that audience is basically everyone else we interact with.
Okay, so if our social lives are like a play, what does that performance actually look like? What are the key elements? Let's break it down.
All right, probably the most important distinction Goffman makes is between the front stage and the backstage. The front stage is, well, it's wherever we're actively performing a role for other people. Think of a teacher in a classroom or a server in a restaurant. But the backstage, that's our private space. It's the staff room or your own home where you can finally drop the act, relax, and just be yourself.
And to make these performances really work, we use a bunch of different tools. We're always engaged in what he called impression management, which is just the effort to control how others see us. We use props and scripts, like a doctor's lab coat or a lawyer's fancy jargon, to make our roles believable. We also work in teams, like a group of coworkers who all have to present a united front. And sometimes these discrepant roles pop up, like an audience member who figures out the magician's trick, and that can threaten to bring the whole performance crashing down.
Let's just zero in on that key idea of impression management for a second. It's all the energy we spend curating our own image, picking the perfect profile picture, or finding just the right words for an important email. It's all about guiding the audience, right? Guiding them to see us in the most favorable light possible.
And to make these performances convincing, we rely on our supports. Our props and scripts are the tools we use, that doctor's white coat, a lawyer's briefcase. And our teams are the other people who are in on the performance with us, like coworkers who back each other up to present a united front to a client.
But, just like any big theatrical production, Goffman's theory has definitely faced its share of critics. And while it offers some really powerful insights, it's not a perfect explanation for all human behavior. So the theory's biggest strength is just how powerful and intuitive it is. It gives us this incredible lens to analyze all those everyday interactions, like how we just instinctively know to lower our voices in a library, or how we perform the role of a concerned friend. It shines a huge spotlight on all those tiny, micro-level rules that secretly govern our social world.
On the other hand, critics argue that it puts maybe a little too much emphasis on the performance, almost suggesting that everything we do is a conscious act. It also kind of tends to ignore the bigger social structures like class, race, and power, and it doesn't really leave a lot of room for genuine, totally unstaged emotions.
So the crucial takeaway is this. Goffman didn't really believe in a single, stable, true self. Instead, he argued that our sense of who we are is constantly being created and recreated through all of our performances and our interactions with other people. Who we are really just depends on what stage we're on. So why does a theory from 1959 still matter so much today? Well, its legacy is huge, especially inside the world of sociology.
The versatility of this theory is just remarkable. You can use it as a framework to analyze almost any social setting you can think of, from the power dynamics between a teacher and students in a classroom, all the way to the calculated performances of lawyers and witnesses inside a courtroom.
Goffman's work also gives us a really powerful model for research. His method wasn't about sending out big surveys. It was about getting in there and closely observing real-life interactions, a technique we call ethnography, to build his theory from the ground up.
And all of this brings us to a final, pretty provocative thought to leave you with. In our world of social media, where we are constantly curating our lives for a digital audience 24/7, is there even a backstage left? Or have our lives just become one continuous, never-ending front stage performance?